This question says, every day people tend to tell white lies just out of habit or sometimes to save others' feelings. It is against sila to lie even if it is a good intention. So should we tell the truth even though we know that it will hurt that person tremendously? The Buddha teaches us to face the reality and find the cause of the problem and solve it. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, right? Sila and kamma, or karma, are defined in terms of cetana, or intention. And this is the key point to remember, that if you act with intention, then you create kamma, or gam. And that the word kamma is a neutral word. Usually in Thai, when we use the word gam, we tend to mean something that's not so good. You know, it's my kamma, it's my gam. But actually, that word itself, in its original meaning in Pali language, simply means an action, and that can be a mental action. That means thinking, dwelling on something in your mind intentionally is kamma, and it will have a result which will harmonize with the nature of the intention. For that reason, if we analyze particular kinds of actions, we say, is that bad kamma or good kamma? Is it karmically significant? The main criteria is, was it intentional or not? So let's say in the case of a white lie, the question is, was your intention to say something that wasn't true? If you say, well, yes, but, then you have to leave that but aside for 1 minute. The point is, it's yes, I intended to say something that wasn't true. So then kamma has been created. But the weight of the kamma, the significance of the kamma, will depend on the reason for telling a lie. If you told a lie out of malice, to deceive somebody, and that person was very dear to you, or someone who was your benefactor, or your parents, for instance, then if there's a strong negative emotion in the mind, and the person is someone who has been kind or beneficial to you in the past, then it'd be very heavy kamma. If you told a lie because you wished to save somebody's feelings, or if you spoke the truth that would hurt them, then it's still kamma, but it would be a very weak kamma, because the intention wasn't accompanied by an unwholesome emotion or reason. So killing is always bad kamma, but there's a big difference between someone who plans ahead and tries to think of a way of killing that person that will really be painful, and delights in the pain and the death, and the killing of a soldier who's been conscripted into the army against his will. He still kills if he pulls the trigger intentionally and shoots somebody, but the weight of the kamma is different. Now, going back to the point about lying, one of the reasons why telling the truth is so important is that telling the truth, perhaps more than anything else, creates a sense of trust between people. Even if someone says something every now and again, say it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, parent, that hurts your feelings, at least you know that if you know that they're not lying to you, you ask them straight out, did you do this? Did you say this? And they say yes or no. If you know that they're telling the truth, even though sometimes it's painful for you, it's preferable, I would say, than not knowing whether you believe them or not, and always having to, did they tell me the truth or not? So if in a relationship, let's say you've asked somebody some important question, say 99 times, okay, and every single time they've told you the truth. And then the 100th time, they tell a lie. Now, do you see that that one lie will have more weight than the 99 truths that preceded it? Why? Because you never can wholeheartedly believe that person ever again. Because once you know they've lied to you once, then obviously, well, why not twice? And they say, well, this was a very special occasion. But yeah, why can't there be other special occasions? And when we can always lie to ourselves, can't we? And in Thai say, "Khao khang tu eng," just take your own side and find reasons to justify your behavior. So it's like, once you get that first crack in the wall or in the dam, it just, once you've lied to somebody once, there's some kind of taboo has been broken. And then the second time is easier, and the third time is easier. And most of the other, you'll see also that these precepts are connected. For instance, the third precept, someone who has an affair behind their partner's back, someone who has somebody else, it's almost impossible to break that third precept without breaking the fourth precept and lying about it, isn't it? So you see, they kind of all melt into one another. They all affect each other. So when you're in a relationship where you can just relax, that person will never lie to you, that's just such a wonderful feeling. And this is one of the wonderful things about being a Buddhist monk. Living with people, very different. I've lived at Nanachat, which are often maybe 20 different nationalities, people from every country in the world: Japan, Singapore, Australia, Israel, South Africa, South America, Canada, America, Germany, Sweden, all over the world. But every single person there I could trust with my life. I know that there's not one single person in that monastery, one single monk, that would ever lie to me under any circumstances. And that's just a wonderful feeling to have in a community or in a family. And that's why this precept is so important to keep, and it has such a transformative effect on relationships if you do keep it. So the idea with these precepts is that they're, as I said last night, they're training rules. They're not these things that somebody saying, you're going to keep this, if you don't do this, then, you're going to fall into hell. It's not that kind of finger-pointing religion, you're really in for it now. It's more saying, you have that in your mind, and you think, how can I say what needs to be said, or how can I avoid saying something which I don't want to say without breaking the precept? So this is where you need to use your wisdom, perhaps not to say anything at all, or even to change the subject, or to find some way of, if you're really sure that what you're going to say would be unbearable for that person, not to deceive the person, but to deal with the situation in a way which you're not undermining trust, and in which you protect your precept. So my teacher says, if you protect your precepts will protect you. So that's a real protection for you in your life. Okay. Why is it important to give credits to others in work or personal environment? To give credit to others, well, I think firstly, one part of training your mind, and something that really you can feel makes your mind more beautiful and makes your mind more noble, is that willingness to recognize the goodness and the achievements of others. Now, if you're in that very kind of narrow, kind of jealous kind of mind state, then it's miserable, isn't it? I mean, just look at this. Which is more pleasant, to live with a mind full of jealousy or a mind without jealousy? I mean, it seems straightforward to me. If every time someone around you does something well and you feel diminished by it, somehow you're made poorer by someone else's success, you're just creating a lot of unnecessary suffering for yourself, and it's a very unhealthy and foolish way of looking at things. So if you can acknowledge other people's goodness and success, then that's something that is transforming your own heart. It's making you yourself a more mature person. It also makes you happy. Because if you're only happy when you yourself are doing something good or you're successful, there's not that many times in a day that it can happen, probably. But if you can recognize the goodness and the success of others, there's always something around you that gives you a lift. The comparison I make is with like a sports team. Let's say playing football. If the centre forward scores a goal, what happens? Everybody sort of rushes over and hugs him, doesn't it? You don't get the centre half or the right backs, and here he goes again. He's always the one that scores the goal. All I do is just stand at the back here and stop other people all the time. No one ever sings my name. Because, it's all one team. You think, well, if the centre forward scores, that means our team has scored. So the more you can look at things in that way, this is part of this team, and we're all on the same boat, then your mind becomes a lot happier. So this again is looking at what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy. Is it just a fixed thing that it's got to be like that for the rest of your life? Can you do something about it? Can you be intelligent about it? So now we know that if people are given encouragement, then often they get gamlang jai from it, don't they? Especially if you feel that nobody really is interested in you, you work hard, nobody ever acknowledges what you've done. It's as if nobody ever sees anything that you do. And for most people, if there's a word of kindness and acknowledgement and credit, then it makes them happy. So it's a very small way of giving happiness to others, and it creates some good bonds and feelings. If you're a leader, there are different styles of leadership, aren't there? And some leaders can just use their power, and they can make people afraid of them and fear them, and they can get a lot of things done that way. You do what I tell you, or you're out. Okay, you can probably get people to work quite efficiently. But if you're a wise leader, what you want to be able to do is to instill faith and love and affection in the people who work for you, so that people really feel committed to you and really enjoy contributing to your company or your community or whatever it might be. And that willingness to acknowledge and to give reasonable praise to those who've done well is an important part of being a leader, isn't it? Next question. How can you control your emotions when situations are not going the way it should? Well, this question is has the answer in it. You see, can anyone pick it up from the question? How can you control your emotion when situation is not going the way it should? Well, what's the way it should go? If you think it should go my way, well, you're going to have this problem a lot. because it's very rarely that things go your way, is it? But things, situations, turn out according to the causes and conditions. And when one is willing to just to bear with or to hold that sense of uncertainty in the mind and not to fight against that, then you're ready. Or we don't like it when things are not sure. Yeah, I want to know, what actually is going to happen right now? What's going on, But often things are in a state of flux, and the wise person is able just to hold that. Yeah, you don't have to have everything sorted out and everything fixed right now. You're willing to just to bear with that and just to see how things unfold. Because often if you act too quickly and prematurely, then even if your action might be the correct one, it won't have the most beneficial effect. So this is what we call rugalatesa, knowing time and place. And not just that kind of impatience to just get this sorted out, get this out of the way, get this resolved. So when you appreciate, whenever you're involved in something, it's either going to work out how you want it to work out, it's going to work out even better than you thought, or it's not going to work out how you thought it would, or it's going to be absolute disaster. You plan ahead. You're ready to recognize. You have a plan B. Okay, yeah, I really want it to be like this. But you think about it beforehand. Yeah, but what if it isn't like that? The power of craving. You see, the more you want something, the more obsessed with something, the less willing you are to stand back from that and look at the other possibilities. In English we say you put all your eggs in one basket. It's got to be like this. If it isn't like this, it's going to be absolute terrible. And so you have a lot of fear, tension, anxiety, and you lose that flexibility of mind, which enables you to adapt to unexpected circumstance. So the more rigid your mind is, the more you've got things worked out. I want it to be like this, it's got to be like that. The more rigid you are, the less flexible you are, the less you're going to be able to adapt to circumstances. And recognizing that your input into any situation is very rarely the only input. You can do a piece of work really well, but maybe your superior doesn't like it, or maybe somebody else criticizes you or takes your work and spoils it. There's all kinds of things that can go on, aren't there? But this is the way the world is. It's like this. It's just this way. This is what the world is like. People who have got greed in their mind, hatred in their mind, delusion in their mind, that's what they can do. This is what greed can do. Rather than thinking it's this particular person, he's so selfish, she's so jealous, he's this and she's that. You don't perceive it in terms of person so much. You perceive it in terms of, look what greed can do when it takes over someone's mind. That's awful. Look what hatred can do to somebody. You see, I know people like 60 years old, 70 years old, still carrying a grudge from, when they were 20. Is there anything more sad than that? Someone who's been carrying a grudge for 50 years. And if someone carries a grudge, there's no time. It's like it's yesterday. And they tell you about what happened. And you can't believe it. They remember every single detail from 50 years ago or 30 years ago. And that's, that grudge-holding tendency, that's what it can do. That's how it can twist your mind and make your mind so kind of gnarled and nasty. So the more you can move away from seeing things in terms of people and he's this and she's that, and the more you can see it in terms of defilements, kiled, then you can see the value of working on this inner level, because this is the only level where you're really dealing with the root causes of the problems. What has meditation given you? What have you learnt from the practice? Well, it's difficult in a way for me to answer that on a number of levels. Firstly, the monks' discipline forbids monks from talking about their own personal experiences with people who are not monks. So that restricts what I can talk about to a certain extent. And also meditation and practice, it's my life really. It's been my life since I was 18 or 19, and I'm 47 now. So I can't remember a time when I wasn't meditating, or I can't remember a time when it wasn't an integral part of my life. As you meditate more and more, then the distinction between periods of meditation and when you're not meditating become a lot less clear-cut. It's a matter of maintaining a particular level of clarity and awareness through every minute of the day. But I would say that I feel extremely happy with my life and extremely content and satisfied with my life. And if I look at contemporaries in the world, people of my age, late 40s, who can say quite frankly and sincerely, I'm totally happy and content with my life. I think very few people would be able to say that. Okay, I still have another. Compared to Christianity that views homosexuality as immoral and unnatural, does Buddhism have a view about homosexuality? And is there a restriction on a homosexual man becoming a monk? Again, this is quite a complex question. The belief system religions have their books as their standards. Okay, so you can say it says in this book, on this page, that's immoral. But the problem is that nearly all of these books contradict themselves. And so chapter 1 says it's immoral and chapter 2 says it's all right. And so this is why you have a lot of arguments and different shades of opinion. Last year in the presidential election campaign, there was a gay politician who was campaigning in Maine on the northeast coast of the States. And some evangelical Christians started to heckle him and say it says in the Bible, in Deuteronomy, that homosexuals should be executed. And he says, yes, it does. But it also says in the same chapter that people who eat seafood should be executed. So it's a pretty hard one for people living in Maine, where everyone lives on lobsters. So if you take what it says in the Bible, there's some chapters the most incredible punishments for what we would consider the most minor of things, and what's immoral and unnatural is a matter for theologians. But I'm not an expert on Christianity, but I'll talk about Buddhism. There is I would say a spectrum of opinion in Buddhist cultures. But always remember that it's very hard to separate a religious teaching from culture. And there are certain cultural traditions that become so entwined with the religious tradition that people are not aware that they're speaking about one when they mean the other. But as some evidence for the more liberal attitude of Buddhism, I would say look at the status of gays, gatoi in Thai society. I mean, I've never heard of gays, gatois being beaten up and or killed for their sexual preference in the way that you do here, particularly say up to 10, 20 years ago in the States or even in England. So there's not that kind of hatred, or there is in Buddhist culture there is an acceptance of diversity, which I think is very mature. So in terms of tolerance and willingness to live with people who have very different kinds of lifestyle and very different kinds of personal preferences, I think Thailand's probably one of the most mature societies in the world, if not the most mature. It's very immature in some other ways, but in this way it's very mature. I know, I'm serious. It's something that it's something to be really proud about when people start running down Thailand, because there's some wonderful things in this country that only when you go to other countries you really appreciate. Now there are restrictions on certain classifications of beings becoming monks. It's a bit complicated because there is a Pali word called pandaka, and these are different kinds of sexual deviants, like people with both a male and female sexual organs or neither, and all kinds of weird things like that. And they're rather obscure because these are words in a dead language from 2,500 years ago. So some monks and some monastic traditions would take this to cover homosexuals and saying that gays shouldn't become monks because of this prohibition against pandakas. But the question of whether someone we would call these days gay is in fact in this category of pandaka is a matter of some dispute. I've run a large monastery for many years, and I've had gay men wanting to become monks. My own standard, and this is a standard that I know a number of my friends in this same kind of position will hold, is the becoming a monk means that you make a commitment to abstain from all sexual behavior. Now, if someone has had homosexual relationships in the past, but is absolutely clear about giving up all sexual behavior in future, then I'm willing to give them a chance. But if that person should be, in English we say camp or katung kating, it's quite obviously gay, then this is another factor because of the impact it might have on the reputation of the monastery. So if someone is quite overtly gay, quite obviously gay, then that would be probably a problem. I certainly would not probably accept someone as a monk, because that people might start to gossip and it might lead to some nasty rumours which would stain the reputation of the monastery. But I know a number of gay men who have become monks and have become very good monks, except of course living with other men, then they have to be very careful and very restrained. Often as monks we offer massage to our Ajahns, and so things like that, then obviously a gay monk would not participate in. But I don't see it as really kind of they're immoral and they're bad and something like this. I mean, the causes and conditions for people being gay are quite complex. I think some from past lives, some from present family conditions. But whatever it is, it's a matter of is someone restrained? And if my own view is as someone, if a gay couple, live like an ordinary married couple, and are restrained in their behavior and have that kind of commitment, then I don't have a problem about that myself. Okay, that's the questions for this morning. Now it's your lunchtime, and so we can finish at this point.